This is the first paragraph of my book, the Zyprexa Papers. It was just a normal day before Dr. David Eagleman called me out of the blue on November 28, 2006. The days are short that time of year in Anchorage, Alaska, and it was getting dark by mid-afternoon. Dr. Eagleman told me he had been hired as an expert witness by one of the law firms representing patients who had taken Zyprexa and contracted diabetes or other metabolic problems. He wanted to know about documents relating to Zyprexa I might have. In truth, he was feeling me out to see whether I might be willing to subpoena him so he could legally send me secret documents. These documents revealed the pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly had from the beginning suppressed information showing Zyprexa caused these life-threatening conditions. In addition, they showed Lilly had illegally marketed this powerful and dangerous drug for use in children and the elderly. He wanted me to then send them to Alex Berenson, a reporter for the New York Times, with whom he was already working on a Zyprexa expose. 3 weeks later, the first of a series of New York Times front page articles appeared. And a month after that, I was in front of the legendary Judge Jack Weinstein in Brooklyn, United States District Court, explaining my actions. And then a month after that, Judge Weinstein issued a decision that I had conspired to steal these documents. Eli Lilly threatened me with criminal contempt and to try and get me disbarred. There are a lot of levels to the book. One of them, of course, is Eli Lilly suppressing this information that cost the lives of literally thousands of people, tens of thousands, maybe even more. Another is my representation of Bill Bigley, the person for whom I subpoenaed the documents, and how psychiatry just ruined his life. And more particularly, the legal processes by which his rights were taken away and he was repeatedly locked up and drugged against his will, ultimately leading to his death. The first time I met Bill was December 5th, 2006, when I was looking for someone for whom I could subpoena the Zyprexa Papers. From then until 2009, I represented him in 10 trial court cases and 5 appeals to the Alaska Supreme Court. One of those Alaska Supreme Court cases resulted in very important precedent for psychiatric defendants' rights. I got to know Bill and about him and was really struck that there but for the grace of God go I. He was born just 2 months before I was. He was first hospitalized in April of 1980 when he was 27. I was hospitalized 2 years later and was lucky not to have been made permanently mentally ill as he was. Bill had 4 and 5-year-old daughters and a good job as a heavy equipment operator at the Sitka, Alaska lumber mill when his wife divorced him and obtained crushing child support and housing payments. According to his hospital file, when asked why he thought he had been brought to the hospital, he said he had just gotten divorced and consequently had a nervous breakdown. Bill was given Haldol, a first-generation neuroleptic. During that first stay in API, it was noted Bill responded well to the hospital routine and participated in activities. He was said to have improved rather rapidly, showing no further indication of hallucinations or delusions. By the time he was discharged, he was said to be pleasant and cooperative. His treating psychiatrist noted on discharge that his prognosis was somewhat guarded depending on what type of follow-up treatment Bill received in dealing with his recent divorce. That psychiatrist was Robert Alberts, who two years later saved me from becoming a lifelong mental patient. Unfortunately for Bill, he did not get to continue seeing Dr. Alberts after his discharge from that first admission to API. He was not given help dealing with his divorce. And the hospital then began forcing him, which went on for another 25 years, making Bill progressively worse and more disturbing to other people. He ended up being hospitalized 100 times before he died. One of the things that I try and do in the book is show that people can get better and do get better from after being diagnosed with a serious mental illness. And so there are a number of people in the book, psychiatric survivors, they often refer to themselves, who had gotten entangled with the psychiatric system and escaped, and really went on to lead quite remarkable and productive lives. One of those was Pat Risser. And Eli Lilly was just intimidating people to take these documents off the web. And so Pat Risser wrote the following in an email to Lilly. Gosh, what a mess. I'm sorry, but I wasn't aware of any court order at the time I downloaded the secret Zyprexa documents. So I not only downloaded them, but I made several copies, burned them to CDs, and distributed them. I mailed them to some family and friends, as well as several newspapers in Ohio and Oregon. Since I had some extra copies, about 40 or so, I also passed them out to folks who seemed interested as I stood outside of the shopping center store. I have no idea who these strangers were, so I can't possibly get these CDs returned. I'm so sorry. I figured since you're making such a fuss over the thousands of copies that went over the internet, I'd better let you know that this secret has spread, and I really can't help stop the spread at this point. Sorry. So that was Pat Risser, who's really an amazing person and an advocate, who passed away a few years ago. There was another psychiatric survivor, Eric Whalen, he had just downloaded the documents from the internet and he posted them on his website. And Eli Lilly just went after him. Their lawyers sending threatening letters and, saying you're violating a court order. An hour later, they'd send another one saying, you haven't taken them down yet, you're in big trouble. And so he ended up taking them down. But Pat Risser, they knew couldn't be intimidated, and they never even sued him, nor did they sue the New York Times, who they knew could stand up to them. The last chapter is called Ruminations and starts out this way. One of the things that struck me while writing this book was that people with good intentions, I'm not referring to Eli Lilly and its lawyers, had such diametrically opposed beliefs. To me, it is crystal clear locking people up and drugging them against their will is not for their own good, but instead very harmful to them. One of my goals in writing this book is to show this truth. The totally unproven and almost certainly untrue notion that what gets diagnosed as mental illness is some kind of brain defect has many horrific results. Chief among these is it is used to justify drugging millions of people with ineffective, counterproductive, and harmful drugs. People diagnosed with serious mental illness in the public mental health system are now dying 25 years earlier than the rest of the population. In the early 1900s, before the introduction of these so-called treatments, people diagnosed with serious mental illness had normal lifespans.